Senator Hawley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for holding this hearing. I've been closely monitoring the implementation of the relief programs, the various relief programs Congress has established, and I have to say I'm thrilled given last week's job numbers. I think that the PPP has played a vital role, has been a vital lifeline during the shutdowns, has clearly helped to stop the economic hemorrhaging and put us in a place now for recovery. And so that is, I think, a great success story. I want to thank the chairman for his outstanding work on this. I do have some questions about EIDL that, following up on what Senator Rosen was just asking about. I'm going to come back to those. Let me start, Administrator Carranza, with you. Just on the Planned Parenthood issue, Planned Parenthood has 16,000 employees. This is not a gray issue. It's a black and white issue. They talk about it in all of their organizing documents. I'm just wondering, when 37 Planned Parenthood offices, 37 separate offices applied for PPP funds, why did the internal system at the SBA not flag the applications?
Senator, our system accepts application and assigns a loan number, and the loan arrangement is made between the borrower and the lender. So when you have about 5 million applications being injected into our system, we don't have a system that flags affiliations or any particular industry. It just assigns a loan number, and that's why it's very important for us that when we looked at sectors, and some sectors had certain tendencies and certain loan values, we then, and the affiliations were one of them, we started to assess, the value of how they exercised or interpreted the
So what you're telling me is that the SBA didn't have any safeguards in place on this particular question. I mean, you didn't have any system in place to flag applications like
at that given
Planned
time.
Parenthood.
That's correct.
Despite the fact, I might add, that the affiliation rule was pretty fiercely debated as part of the PPP package, as part of the CARES package, amended several times. Tell me about the Planned Parenthood affiliates that wrongly receive funds. How many of those has SBA contacted now?
At this point, I wouldn't be able to speak about a particular loan situation. So
Why?
it's proprietary information, and it's...
I'm not asking about a loan situation. I'm asking how many you've contacted. The SBA's put out a statement saying that you've contacted the affiliates. You've sent letters. That's been publicly reported.
Yes,
How many?
The office did receive your letters, and we acted accordingly. But at this point, giving the detail on a particular borrower would just not be appropriate.
So you can confirm for the record that you've sent letters to Planned Parenthood affiliates, but you won't tell us how many? That's your testimony?
No, I'm saying that the affiliation or any borrower that we are taking a course of action is that indeed, and I don't talk about the particulars.
How many Planned Parenthood affiliates have returned the funds?
Again, I have to take the position that I'm not able to share that borrower information at this
When are you
point.
going to be able to? And how are we going to conduct oversight if you won't give us
I
any of
look
this
forward to
information?
speaking with you in your,
I'm
meeting
sorry?
with you. I look forward to meeting with you and discussing the situation, but at this point, I won't be able to speak to it publicly.
Well, what's different between discussing it with me in person and discussing it here when you're under oath?
But just to clarify, again, the SBA position, I wouldn't be able to divulge any of the details, or just explain what our practice and our policy is.
Well, how are you going to provide this committee with information about this breach of the rules that are in the statute so that we can conduct oversight? How are we going to conduct our oversight if we don't know any of the details? And when, since you won't do it now, when will you do it? When will you? What are the guidelines that you will follow in disclosing this information
Well, Senator,
to us?
what I would like to do is to review with you the controls that we've put in place and the course of action that we take with all affiliations, not just this
Okay,
particular.
we'll follow up with you. For the record, I'd like to state, it is important that this committee conduct its oversight of rules that are written in the statute. And I want answers about how Planned Parenthood, which is forbidden by the statute that this Congress wrote and passed into law. It's not a rule, it's not a regulation, it's in the statute. I want to know how it happened that $80 million was diverted to Planned Parenthood affiliates that is plainly not permissible under the statute. This committee has an obligation to perform oversight, and I want answers on that. And I will not accept that you can't tell us or that you don't know. So I want answers. So we will follow up with you. We'll follow up with the Department of Justice. But I'm just saying for the record, it will not be acceptable to me that you're not going to tell us, you're not going to get back to us, you're not going to be responsive.
No,
And
Senator,
frankly, the pattern of unresponsiveness from the SBA throughout this process has been disturbing, which I've said for the record, and I'll say it again today, and I'm disturbed by it. Mr. Chairman, one other question, if I could, just
Senator
on
Hawley, if I
the,
may,
I've got
I just
to
wanted
move
to
on.
let
You've
you
made
know
your
that
position
I
clear,
do
and you're
know
not
the
being
status of the
responsive. Let me ask you another
applications.
question
I
while I've
look-
got you here. On the idle applications, you answered an earlier question that idle applications are now in the portal. I'd like to know the timeline of when they will be processed. I've had applicants in my state that have waited 80 days, 80 days, for any kind of a response on their idle application. Senator Rosen was just talking about this, similar problems in her state. When will they be processed? We have repeatedly asked for answers. They can't get answers. I can't get answers. When will they be processed, and when will these good folks get some response to their application?
Senator Hawley, I can extract all of the applications that pertain to your particular state, and I can review with you the status of them. At this current time, we have about 2.5 million applications that have been processed. There's a high number of declines. We are reinstating those particular declines once they fix their information. The other 2.5 will be injected by next week. So all of the 5.4 million applications that we had in the queue since March will now be in what we call the loan processing portal. I'll have visibility when that loan is positioned there, and I can share with you exactly where your loan portfolio stands.
My time has expired. I'll follow up with you on that. I just want to emphasize again that it is absolutely vital for people who have been waiting for 80 days plus that their application be processed. And they don't care what you label the queue. You're in this queue or that queue. They just want it processed. They need an answer. They're waiting on a vital lifeline. So we look forward to working with you on that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Senator Kennedy. Senator Kennedy. Yes, sir. Unless you have nothing to say, which I doubt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Secretary and Madam Administrator. I've had some oral surgery, as you can probably tell, so my speech my accent's the same, but my speech is a little impaired. That's a blessing or a curse. Mr. Secretary, do you have economists on your staff that can put a value on the amount of damage that was done to businesses from the looting and the burning from the rioting, not the economic impact of the peaceful protests in America, or as American as baseball. But felony looting is not. Do you have economists that can put an impact, a value on the economic impact of those small and larger businesses?
I do have economists. I will ask them whether they have data that they can look at to do that and get back to you. I don't know the answer.
Okay. Why we have about, what, 130 billion we haven't dispersed through the PPP program, is that correct?
That is.
So it would appear we're going to have some money left over, is that correct?
It is.
I'm going to introduce a bill that I would like you and your very able, and I mean that sincerely, colleagues at Treasury to look at, to take some of that money and make it available to the businesses, mostly small businesses, but to the businesses that have been lost as a result of the burning and the looting and the felony rioting. I think they're going to need help.
We're more than happy to look at that with you. And let me just comment on the...
Pull that mic closer for me.
I said we're more than happy to follow up with you on that. And let me just comment on the extra money. As you recall, Congress gave us an extra $60 billion more than we needed, and because everybody was so skeptical that we were going to run out. So some component of this extra money we did not anticipate we'd be able to put to work, but we look forward to working with you on potentially repurposing it.
Well, I'm going to introduce that bill. We're drafting it now, and if we do have an additional coronavirus bill, I would like to consider, I'd like you to consider making that a part of it.
We'll absolutely work with you, Mr. Senator.
And I would like, if you could put some of your best minds, you and the administrator, to quantifying the damage done from the rioting.
I'm
Now,
gonna
I would
follow up.
envision that we have arrested a lot of people, our law enforcement authorities, who caused this, who did the burning and looting, and we're probably going to put a provision in our bill where the authorities have to go after them for civil liability, basically take their assets and offset the money that taxpayers would have to spend. But I would like you to take a look at that
We will, thank you.
and talk to the president about it. Number two, I want to cut to the chase here. If you were king for a day, what would you put in the next coronavirus bill, other than the idea I just articulated to you?
If I were king for a day, I'd say we should spend the next 30 days looking at a lot of different things that will be in that bill.
Yes, sir, but I know you've been thinking about them,
my
and I'd like to get your general thoughts now of what we should be thinking about.
I think that, one, we're going to need money for business to encourage businesses to rehire people, especially in areas that have been most impacted. So whether it's the travel, leisure, restaurants, you can't get hotel capacity back up to speed without hiring people first. So
What else?
That is an example. I think we're going to need to fix unemployment. So we knew there was issues with the enhanced unemployment, where in certain cases we were paying people more not to work than work. I think we've seen from the recent numbers that didn't have a big impact because people want their jobs, but we will have a significant amount of unemployment, and we're going to need to look at doing something there. I think we're going to seriously look at whether we want to do more direct money to stimulate the economy. But I think this is all going to be about getting people back to work, and we look forward to working with the entire Senate on this.
What about, and I'm going to try to be quick here, what about incenting investors to invest in the economy? Capital gains treatment that would be relaxed, that sort of thing?
It's something we've discussed. My opinion right now is that the Fed facilities have unlocked the capital markets. There's a lot of liquidity for investment. That's something we'll look at, but I think we're much more targeted at getting people back to work, and I think investors are prepared to invest a lot of liquidity that they have right now.
Well, the Federal Reserve has done a great job, and yes, they have unlocked the credit markets, unlocked them, but at great expense. We can talk another day about the size of the balance sheet now at the Federal Reserve. But look, I think Jay Powell's a rock star. I think he did great. Final thought, a lot of the banks and the small business women and small businessmen think that the federal government is going to double-cross them on the forgiveness of these loans. You need to be mindful of that. You also you and the administrator need to take some of those smart minds in your office, and you have plenty of them, and try to reduce that 11-page form to about half. And you both need, in my opinion, I'm not trying to tell you how to do your job, but articulate to the business people out there that the federal government is not looking for ways to catch the banks or the businesses who took this money in a minor mistake, so the loans can be turned into loans.
I assure you that's the case. And let me just emphasize, in the recent bill, there was an extension from 2 years to 5 to 10 years. But I don't expect businesses are going to need to use that, because I think the majority of this money is going to be forgiven in the next few months, and that's our intent. And I would just highlight—
I know that, Mr. Secretary, but they don't trust us.
I understand.
And for good reason.
And that's why we're going to get the job done quickly. And there's also, let me just give a little pitch, there's a third-party calculator that you can put all in the information, and you can get the forgiveness forms done in 15 minutes. And as I said, with the new legislation, with the safe harbor, it's going to be even easier. So trust me, I've had people ask us about the Form EZ, Senator Collins and others. You know, I'd like to make this as easy as possible. We do have a law that we're required to work within, but I want to assure people that have taken this money, our intent is to get this stuff processed quickly. And I should have also mentioned, you know, we've been speaking with you and others, obviously, on the state issue, and I know you have potential legislation, so I should have also put that on the list, obviously, that we'll address on a bipartisan basis.
Think about helping the business people who were hurt from the looting and the burning. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.